Now, I'll just let you know, let you know as well that Mr. Barr has to leave after this little interaction that we're having, but he is happy to take 5 minutes of questions and answers if you would like to think about what you may like to ask Mr. Barr, and then at the end of this whole meeting we will have questions and answers for everyone else. So now to the second part of our 5-minute speeches. What's important to your party in terms of budget? What are your budget priorities? Please welcome again Mr. Brendan Smith for the ACT Liberal Party.
Ladies and gentlemen, it will come as no surprise to you to hear me say our budget priority is not to triple your rates. It's great to be the world's great reforming treasurer, but you've actually got to be able to afford it. And it's not tax reform to say we're abolishing all these taxes when you can't clearly delineate to people how you're going to pay for it. And we quizzed the Treasurer and the Chief Minister in estimates and said, okay, what are your projections for rates? They couldn't tell us. What did the Treasurer say? He said, go to the Quinlan report. And what does Quinlan say? When you look for a chart that goes to Quinlan, I think it's in page 141, it says, over time, the rates must triple as you give out these taxes. Now, the money that was collected from the taxes that the Treasurer is going to get rid of last financial year is about $500 million. And if you disperse that into the rates, it means the rates must triple. At the end of the period in the budget, there's about $384 million worth of taxes being collected by taxes that have been, of course, abolished. Now, they're very special taxes that have been abolished, but the actual tax take goes up. And if you divide that by the number of leases on top of the rate increases over the next 3 or 4 years, then of course the rates must triple. It is inescapable. At the end of the day, one of the things my father taught me, and I have to say as a kid I used to hate it, he used to say, you know, I'd say, you can go to the movies, and he'd say, yeah, if you can afford it, you can go to the movies. I want to buy a book, but if you can afford it, you can go and buy that book. And you've got to be able to afford it. And I think what history shows, whether it's at the federal level or at the territory or state level, what you can't do is afford Labor governments and their promises, because at the end of the day, they never pay for it. Those messes are always left for Liberal parties to clean up, and that is our great strength, economic management. What we've said is that we understand that people are suffering. Rates in the last 10 years have doubled. CTP in the last 4 years has gone up 50%. We've seen electricity go up 85%. We've seen water triple since this government has formed. And they are very huge imposts on people. By the way, he came up to me at the Cornwall shops the other day. He said, I'm a motor mechanic. I earn $50,000 a year. My wife is a nurse. She earns $70,000 a year. I've got 3 kids and I live in Chisholm. He said, I'm sick of being told by the Labor Party that I'm rich and well off and I can afford to pay for those who are less well off. He said, we struggle. He said, I'm a working family, we struggle. And I think after 11 years in office, the thing that's quite clear is that the Labor Party has forgotten what it is like out in the real world. And if you're out in the real world talking to people when they get their electricity and their gas bills after winter, when they get their rates noticed and they've gone up 5 to 35%, when their rates on their commercial properties, I had one lady the other day, she said the rates on my shop, my small salon, have gone from $400 to $600 a quarter. She said that's an awful lot of haircuts that I've got to perform just to pay the government before I get a cent. And I think the government has forgotten what it's like to be out in the real world. Well, we haven't, because we've been out talking to people, we've done the hard work, and we've formulated a plan that says we don't need to triple your rates, we can give concessions, and we will balance the budgets and look after you better. And it's from that strength. You'll remember Kate Carnell and Gary Humphries in '95 paying off the Labor Party's debt and putting us into the position that the current government inherited. You'll remember, yes, there were hard days under the Howard government, but they paid off the debt, they brought the budget into surplus, and were able to do so much more because they weren't paying large interest bills and they could afford to do it. And it's that legacy, for instance, that Rudd and Swan spent during the GFC. It was there because of the Liberal government. We understand the value of your money. It's not ours, it's your money. We understand the value, the sweat that you put into earning those dollars. Taxation should be fair, but it should be reasonable. Tripling people's rates to fund a tax reform that the Treasurer can't fund any other way is a price that we think is too hard to pay. So our first priority will be not to triple your rates. We will implement our plan. Our promises are modest. We probably promise less than the other two at this stage, and we'll continue to do that because we will live within our means. The same as you do at home. You live within your means, and we understand that. But by not wasting money on projects that don't go ahead, like Firelink and the busway to Belconnen, which they spent $5 million each on, through Infrastructure Canberra, we will deliver infrastructure on time, on scope and on budget, because this is a government that, we asked the Minister Corbell in one set of hearings, can you name one project as the planning minister that you've delivered on time, on budget, on scope? And you know what Simon did? He said, I'll take that on notice. He couldn't answer one. He couldn't name one project that they had delivered to the specifications or on the budget. And I think that's a damning indictment of any government. So, one, we won't triple your rate. Two, we will spend your money more wisely. Three, we will deliver the services, the basic services that you require in a better and more efficient manner, because we are the efficient managers of budgets and we are the efficient managers of government. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have a plan to diversify the economy, to grow the private sector. When these people came to office, the private sector in this city was about 60% of the population. It's now 49%. The private sector in this city has declined. And it's the private sector that creates wealth, it creates assets, it employs people. All the jobs Mr. Barr likes to talk about are genuinely created in the private sector because they are the ones that pay for things. Government takes that money and spends it on their employment as well, but it's the private sector, it's the creation of wealth that truly matters. If you want a city that's sustainable long term, you have to manage those assets very, very wisely on the private sector. So I'll just finish by simply saying we won't triple your rates.